Hello, people. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have an exciting, different kind of episode. I think this will be helpful for, well, actually, I think it'll be helpful for everyone, especially personal trainers. I had Kerry Smith on the podcast, who I randomly seen on Instagram posting pictures with people in their 80s, people in their 90s, giving fitness advice after she had done her senior Mobile Mondays classes, she calls them. So she just does like resistance-based training and any kind of movement really with people in their 70s, 80s and 90s. And I thought, fuck me, that's interesting. I've not really seen people do that before. So I thought I would have her on. So yeah, I'll just let you enjoy the show. Before you go, if I can just be quite annoying and ask you to show your support on any platform you're watching or listening on. Are we, rating on Spotify, or are we like or whatever on YouTube? All goes a long way, and enjoy. I've been quite lucky with it. The first gym I worked in was in the East End, and they were the soundest people ever. Just their business wasn't working. So like it was so good to PT people in because it was dead.
Yeah.
But also the gym can't run because it's dead.
Yeah.
And they just like, there was a few things they done. So they had classes called, and they were like, I went in straight away, and Chris, who runs it, he's sound, and I won't name the gym, but people who listen who went to that gym will know who it is. He's well sound, but like I just don't associate with some of the things that a lot of gyms do.
Yeah.
So he was like, do you want to do the classes? And I was like, I'm not really a class guy. And he was like, they're called Flabulous. And I was like, definitely not for me. Yeah, Flabulous. And I was like 8-week, like, and it's weird though, because like they aren't really like that. The people that work in there, as in the coaches, aren't like those sort of shredding fat loss coaches.
Yeah.
I just think so many of them think that's the only way to market gyms and PTing. Because like I would speak to them like, but you don't care about any of that, and you're not really like that. But I just think people can't see past any other way of marketing in gyms, which is quite sad, I think.
Yeah, it is. And that's why like I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to make it all about the physical. And I want to get out as far away from that as possible. And although helping older people was always part of the plan, it's so comforting to know that I don't have to be a part of that.
How did you get into the training older folks? So like I'll do an intro before, so I'll kind of give a bit of background into it. So I've just spent like 2 hours looking through all your Instagrams and stuff.
Really?
That usually embarrasses people when I say that.
Yeah,
but some of the videos you've posted, like nearly, I cry quite easily.
Oh really?
So I didn't cry, right? But like you know when you're like, they make you quite emotional. Like the ones with there was 2 Johns though, wasn't there?
There's 2 Johns.
Yeah, so the one that passed away when you were doing the stuff where you were going like that with him.
Yeah.
I always say I'll do stuff and post edit and put it up, but I probably won't. But there was videos where you were making him move his hands from side to side and stuff. That one got me a little bit.
Yeah. So John was the start of, well, I say that. So my mum, who passed away in 2019, she was a home carer, and I was always around older people. She would just take me along. I wouldn't help her, but I would sit and like hang out with them. And I loved it. And when I moved to Edinburgh, I really missed it. And I thought, how can
So you were never working with older folk?
No.
You were just around them?
Yeah, I was just around them. And my mum said, caring's a hard job. It's a really hard job. So just consider it. They're so overworked and underpaid as well. So I was trying to figure out how I could just be a part of that. So I started volunteering for an elderly charity, and I met John. We were matched up. He was 90.
Was that the befriending thing you were talking about?
Yeah, right. Befriending, yeah. So
what's that?
So it's just basically, so the charity's independent age, and somebody, I think they advertise on energy bills and things like that for older people. And he signed up to this thing where you put your interests in. It's like a dating, is what I mean? You put your interest in what you're interested in. But
That's mad, isn't it? Because we would never, ever, ever look at like an advert on an energy bill.
I know, exactly.
It's crazy how different things are for us.
Yeah, and he saw that and he signed up to it, and I met up with him, we had a chat and we got on really well. His wife had passed away about 3 years before. So, and his brother had passed away like the year before. He went to visit him in Australia, and he passed away when he was there, which was like crazy. I had a really, really tough time, but he was the most positive guy I'd ever met. So, so lovely. So I used to go and just visit him, have a cup of tea and chat away.
So you were just literally just his mate?
Yeah.
At the start, so like you're nothing to do with exercise, nothing. You're just, and how did you, that's for the charity?
Yes. Yeah, that was through the charity.
Is he the only one you met for that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd meet him once a week. That's only the only time that I could really spare. I was managing a bar at the time, and I was just working like every hour under the sun. And yeah, we would do that. Went out for his birthday. Took him for tapas. Went to like the theater.
Was he in a wheelchair at that point?
No. He was mobile. He was relatively fit for that age. And yeah, one day he came, like I visited him and he said, yeah, I've been at an exercise class. I was like, oh, what
You're not a PT at this point, no?
No, I wasn't even thinking about fitness at this point. I mean, I was into fitness. And he said, yeah, we were just sitting in a chair. The guy in front was saying that, imagine you're climbing up a hill and everyone was really getting into it. And then afterwards we had tea and biscuits. And I thought, that's the kind of job I want to do. That would mean that I would be around these older people all the time. But being in fitness is something, I'd kind of considered it, but it's not something that I was like super passionate about. And yeah, and then I decided.
So were the classes that he went to like the one you run now?
Kind of. They're bigger, I think. So my classes
and are they in older folks' homes?
Yeah, I think it's in halls, like community halls and things like that. So mine, maximum 10 people. It's quite chaotic. Like there's no way
I've seen the videos.
It is. There's no way of, so it's only me at the moment. So everyone's got different needs. Some people have, they're hard of hearing or they're visually impaired. So you have to be...
Fuck, I didn't even think about things like that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about all the different sort of ailments people would have physically. Obviously, they're physical ailments, but I just mean, I'm thinking about like people with injuries or like arthritis and stuff. I didn't even think about like visual and hearing impairments.
So if someone...
Mary, you just watched that Stephen! Stephen, can you hear me?
If you're not being really clear in what you're saying, then someone, they're not going to know what they're doing. But you also have to be careful what you're doing, because if you just, lose concentration, you go and reach for something, then that person's going to be reaching for that thing too. So
I guess it's so hard to explain that, isn't it? That when you coach, like, so many times you have to just watch me first. And this is just with people our age. Like, just watch me first, don't do it. Because as soon as you start doing something, people instantly copy you, don't they? Like, if you're teaching a deadlift, you're like, no, stay still, I'll go through it, and then I'll do it with you, and you're straight away, and they're copying you. So I can imagine there's 10 people around you. Yeah. And you just have to, like, don't make any sudden movements.
Exactly. It is challenging. I'd say that's probably one of the most challenging parts, is refining it down so that it runs really smoothly. Surely you
learn a lot on the spot.
Oh yeah.
Like instant lessons straight away.
Oh, all the time. Like it is. It's you can't prepare that much. I've always got a plan, but I don't know who's going to turn up. And then having that in mind, that everyone's got those different needs as well. So I try and stick to the plan. We always do a dance as well, which is really good to try and get there, because music is the best thing for triggering like emotions and memory as well. So I've kind of just come up with different parts of the class as I've gone and realized what works.
So how did you get into so you've learned that that's a thing through John.
Yeah.
And then you became a PT, I presume. How did you actually get into like being able to access like seniors and doing the classes?
So I was really lucky. So the gym that I worked for, they started a program that
was that before you joined, or?
So So it was after it closed down, they, allowed a couple of us to go out and do that, which is really good. So now I'm looking to start my own classes and just, push for that as much as possible.
Where would you do them?
Retirement homes, care homes, things like that.
Just sort of freelance, go in.
Yeah. So I've had a couple of meetings with places, and it's quite hard sometimes, like selling yourself, but they need it. There's not that much out there. I don't think, as far as I can see, there's not that much. There's a few companies, but definitely not enough.
I haven't seen anyone posting the sort of stuff you post
really
with the quotes and stuff. You might see it because you're in that line of work or whatever, but I haven't. I've been a PT for 4 years. I've never seen anyone doing that. So Dale that you just met, he tries to specifically teach like 50 to more like 50 to maybe 60. And I think he would take like a 70-year-old on. A lot of people's like, we have like PTs, mums and dads that he trains. And he calls it building your physical pension.
I know, I love that.
But you're almost working with the people where his sort of niche cuts off. Like, what kind of exercises are you actually doing with them? I know it changes all the time, but like, what's like your go-to sort of exercises?
So it's always a TheraBand, so a resistance band, seated, not necessarily always sitting, but we'll always be using a chair in some way because they need the support there. They need, just safety aspect of it. So yeah, just it's not wildly different from what I do with anyone else. Bent over rows.
Just any sort of resistance that you can create.
And it's all relative to the person. It needs to be challenging for them to actually see progress. There's just often this idea that older people just need to take it easy and they don't need to push themselves, but you do. It doesn't change. Nothing changes. You're just older. So I make sure, and I think that's the other thing, is making sure that they know how it feels to push themselves, because it's like that with any clients. They come to you and they say, I could have maybe done 2 or 3 more.
It's a whole 6 months process of something, say like a beginner. I find it takes me like 6 months to get them to like be like, oh, I'm pushing myself now. Whereas if they went for like 2 years, they wouldn't. They would just do 3 sets of 10 or like whatever it is, insert what amount, and they'll just do the exact same all the time, forever. And then you can't even do that to them at the start, because you'd be like, oh, push near failure, and they'll be like, oh, that was failure, and like, you had about 12 left.
Yeah, I'm like, if I was going to give you £1 million right now, how many more could you have done? And they're like, I could have kept going forever.
Yeah. So I can imagine it being a whole other ball game with older folk as well.
It is.
Can you judge like that? If you can see in a client they've got like maybe 4 reps left, can you judge that in older people as well?
Yeah, I mean 1-to-1, but when it's a class, it's hard to tell. I can see, you can just look at their facial expressions and see if they're actually struggling. Although some people just do that from the get-go, don't they? They kind of look like they're struggling. But so you learn each individual person, but I think sometimes they worry. It can be worrying if you feel something that is unfamiliar. So heart racing, or just the feeling of blood rushing to the muscles. I think that's not right. I'm feeling pain. And it's hard because you have to make sure that you don't undermine how they're feeling as well. Just to say, well, that's normal. It's just all part of exercising. But you have to make sure, and you can never be sure. You can never be 100% sure if something is normal. So you have to make sure that you ask them all the questions. But just trying to ensure that they're comfortable and they know that there's always going to be a little bit of discomfort involved in exercising.
Can you remember what your first class was like? See, because I'm just thinking me getting thrown, like I've seen your videos and just imagine me getting thrown in there. And I would think I would have a panic attack.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't have a clue where to start.
Yeah, I was so nervous. I think what made me the most nervous was if they didn't like me. If I got up there and they were just like, because when you're younger as well, you think they're not going to take you seriously, that you don't understand their struggles. But the main thing working with older people is that they know that you care. That's the absolute, because I've had people come to me and say, went to a class, didn't enjoy it. And when I've asked them why, they said, because the person looks like they don't want to be there, like they're not interested, they didn't ask us anything, you have to get to know people individually. That's not always realistic. If you've got a massive class, then that's more difficult. But for me, I know each person in the class really, really well and what they struggle with. And I make sure that I try and tailor it to them as well.
Have you, and how you've got to know them, is that through the class, or have you spent time with them outside the classes as well?
Yeah, I actually have spent time with them outside the classes. So I do one-to-one with John from the class as well. And I'll meet up for a coffee every now and again, or it's sheltered housing. So they all live in that block. So sometimes they'll say, I've got something to show you in the flat. So I'll go and they'll show me.
What are they showing you?
They're like paintings or something like that. But it's, yeah, you get to know them, and it's so nice.
Do you know, I think that's just I just think you would have learned so much more than people going in and just doing. I think the standard way people coach is just shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean coaches are shit. I mean, like, when I think about when I first came into the industry, it was like hire somebody making loads of money. Like, as in to learn off of them. I'd done that. I was just realised I got sent a spreadsheet and told to eat less calories. And just even like the model, like train people 3 times a week. Do you know what? And it's just a bit shit. I think all of it was a bit shit, and you don't really learn anything. I just remember watching like other PTs as well in the gym, and everyone was just sort of doing the same thing and just not enjoying it, and like the clients not turning up and all that.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's so much different things you can do to learn, and like that's one of them. That's what I do, like free sessions, and I deliberately do it with people I've never, and like I don't even push coaching onto them after, but it's so that I can get in front of as many different people. Like, see if someone goes, I've got this injury, and this, I'm like, great, because I've never seen any of them.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt you. I'm just going to try to work around what that is. And I learned so much more just by like getting you to maybe try a movement, you can't do it, and then I have to think on the spot. Like, I like put myself under like pressure.
Yeah, it's good. It's intimidating at the start when someone comes to you and they do have, you know, an illness, like a long-term condition that you've not dealt with before. But I do find that's the most rewarding when you're actually being challenged.
Do you think with those ones though, to be safe, they always know more about their condition than you will. That's always like, I just ask them, then believe them, then also don't do anything that like use common sense, you know, not to hurt them.
That's all it comes down to. I got really hung up at the start of being as qualified as I could. I was doing every course that I could.
You were just quite stressed about me asking you scientific questions.
Yeah, I was, because you know, anything that you be called out, like, that's wrong. But you don't use it. You don't actually. A client never asks you anything. I've
said this before. I never even would say the word quadricep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever say that.
Sometimes it slips out during my classes, and they're all like, "All right."
I wouldn't even say quad. I might say top half of your leg on the front side. Do you know? Because clients don't give a fuck.
They don't care.
Like, they really don't care, and that's what I agree. Because there's a whole. I don't know why fitness has got like almost like PTs like are so obsessed with like studies, like more so than doctors.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's became quite infiltrated with that type of people into it. Like, and you can't. Most studies that I've read, there's nothing I can apply to my client.
I know.
Do you get what I mean? Like, study on intermittent fasting for weight loss versus not fasting. There's nothing I can take from that. Like, my client doesn't know how many calories is in a croissant.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, that's it. It is. You can get so hung up on all that stuff, and you never actually start. You know, I didn't take on clients for a little while when I started because I was like, I don't feel ready. I need to know more. And it's the only way you can learn is by training people. And I did like online coaching at the start because I started in 2020.
So did I. In the lockdown, like, there's a lot of similarities. Like, I've had quite a lot of people on that seem to have started around that time, but I only online coached as well. For a year, because every time the gyms would open, I knew they were going to shut again. Well, I should have just went in, but I also went and moved to London, which was a whole fucking it was terrible.
Yeah.
Awful. And then coached down there online for a while and just basically sat in a room for about 9 months and then moved back and worked in that East End. But I learned nothing on the well. It's mostly just I hate the idea of coaching just to being about food and calories.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to detest that. I hate it all being about weight loss, and that's how I started. Just talking about weight loss, just talking about fat loss, and like you get clients, but like you also get awful clients. That's all. They're just jumping from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. And although calorie tracking isn't like a fad, it's still like the way they came at Slimming World, the way they came at weight loss. And even if you're it was a struggle to get those people to go to the gym. Whereas now I'm like, no, my whole thing is the gym or resistance training, and I'll help you with that stuff on the side. Yeah. But that's the main priority.
Yeah, absolutely. Longevity. Any day. That's the only thing I want to push for people. I don't think I could go back to, so now when I speak to the older clients and they say going up the stairs feels easier, or, you know, I'm able to go out dancing later on. You know, John was saying that he goes out dancing twice a week, and the impact that exercise has on their life is massive. And I just don't think I could go back to just talking about losing weight for a holiday or something like that. There's still aspects to that. You know, even the older clients still want to lose weight in some way. They say, yeah.
Listen, Kerry, I'm 96. I was at Slimming World last week. Can you help me?
Yeah, they are. They've got a jacket I really want to fit into. And, you know, I tell them the basics and they do it. They do their steps and everything, but it's a small part of it, you know, and it's just so much more rewarding when you're talking about.
And I haven't spoke to a client about steps in ages.
Really?
I just hate that way of coaching, about more so the like, you know, like a weekly check-in and looking at their weight. I just found it like had the complete opposite effect of what I was trying to do. Do you know what I mean? So I even like consciously don't speak about these things, and consciously it's like always lifting related. So I might look at how much, because they'll track all their lifts. I'll look at their deadlift well before I'll look at their weight. Yeah. Like way before. Some clients I haven't even checked their weight in like 3 months, just because a lot of my clients will will start tracking their food, and like they'll maybe start with wanting weight loss. I'll get them to eat at maintenance for like 6 weeks and just kind of get them to track food and stuff. And then they'll go, I do want to lose weight now, and I'll go fine. And then see after 4 weeks, they'll go, nah, fucking sack that. That shit. And I was enjoying lifting. I'm like, welcome to the good side.
Yeah, that's happened to so many of my clients. I think sometimes it kind of comes and goes, doesn't it? They'll say, I still want to lose weight. It always
comes back. They'll get 3 months later, they'll feel it. They'll eat like, they'll have a Chinese or something, feel bloated, and they'll go, oh, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's try it again.
And the scale weight is just, it's so damaging, because it's going to be a spot check every now and again, which, you know, is not representative of anything by itself. So I try and not use scales. I try and move away from that as much as possible and just use measurements or clothing, something like that, you know, so they can just.
So how are you like tracking progress with them then?
So.
And this is you're more speaking about your clients in the gym then?
Yeah. Clients in the gym, it would be predominantly like measurements and clothing, but it's the lifts for most people. But if there is someone that wants to lose weight, I'm not going to undermine that. If that's what they want to do, then I'll help them as much as possible. The steps thing is difficult, because I just feel sometimes it's so hard to guess how much you're moving. And I find tracking steps is quite handy. If you I'll say, right, let's focus in on this, and they'll keep track of all of that and do their progress trackers. But it definitely comes and goes.
I set a step goal and it's like 7,000.
Yeah.
And it's more just like, that's been there from the beginning. And like, I'm like, let's get up to like 10 or whatever. Just seven's a nice wee number that stops you doing like, because that's the number I use in my head when I'm working. If I've like long days on a laptop or whatever, and I look at my thing and I've done 400 steps, I'm like, fuck, that's ridiculous. But it's quite easy to get in that. I just don't like pushing steps, because my type of clients, like usually parents, usually 40 hours a week, getting to the gym 2 or 3 times a week is 10 times better than what they were doing, like 10 times better. Yeah. So I'm usually like, if you can get some steps in as well, great. But like, let's just I always think about the gym as like the one that's got the biggest carryover effect to everything else. So I'm like, even if you didn't track your food, you didn't hit steps, your sleep wasn't that great, but you went to the gym, I think the next week your sleep will probably be better. You'll maybe make some better choices and you'll maybe be more like, do you know what I mean? That's what I always think, it's got a snowball effect. So I always try hit that. Whereas if you lost weight, it doesn't make you feel it good at all. You probably felt shite.
Yeah.
So that's the way I try to think about it.
No, I completely agree with that. I like, if people could just lift consistently, it would be life changing for them, because it's not just about being in the gym. It's about showing up for yourself and doing that consistently. And people are so hard on themselves when they've not done anything else apart from turn up for their PT session. But that in itself is an achievement. And I always remind them of that. And the gym can be a scary place. And I don't think anyone forgets that either. Even, PTs. Sometimes if I go into a new gym, I'm like, oh my God, this is...
Oh, I went into a new gym in Shawlands, and it was proper bodybuilders as soon as I went in, and I'm the least bodybuilding type of PT ever. Sometimes people look at me and go, you're obviously not, like, you're a runner or something. You know what I mean? And like they were all eating meal prep, like out of the boxes and all that, like 3 of them just sitting there, like, like big hoodies on, that type of like, and I was like, nah, this is, and I'm looking for a new gym because I've moved, and I was just like, no, this makes me feel uncomfortable, because I can see them looking at me straight away, if you know what I mean. They probably are judging me, and that's them just judging how much weight was on the bar, never mind the fact I'm a personal trainer.
Yeah.
But you can tell, those sort of gyms I don't really like. So yeah, you can relate to people. I always try to remind myself when I'm in situations like that, like, oh, this is how my clients feel. Because I'm speaking about this a lot. I think I've learned a lot the last year from like going to therapy about how to like control my own ego with my clients. So like, I think as personal trainers, we often will take responsibility for a client not doing something, whereas I've really tried to change that. I never was the type of person that I would never act on the emotion. I couldn't really control the emotion. I would always beat myself up about how a client's doing, if you get me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I've like managed to sort of disassociate from that. I'm like, I've heard therapists that are like the best therapists in the world, and they'll talk about scenarios where they've had like a client who was sexually abused or something, and they've like done like a year of therapy with them, and they go back to that abuser. Yeah. I'm like, well, fuck me, if my client doesn't track their food one day or like go to the gym one day, how can you like take full responsibility for that? I know, you can't just burn out if you're doing that for everyone. I think every PT's burnt out at one point. Oh yeah, I've definitely been close to it anyway. It's so easy because it's so emotional, and you do get invested. If you're in it for the right reasons, I think, you're probably an empathetic person and you want to help people. And when someone needs your help and you're trying, you're giving them the tools where they're not doing it, and so you're trying different things, and it can really take it out of you. You can't have too many clients that are really demanding, or aren't really doing much. It's also that balance into it as well, because you might have to like let somebody go that you really wanted to help, but you're like, but you're pushing me over the edge. Yeah. You just need the help of someone else. Do you know what I was interested in? So I've heard, like, I've not actually spent that much time. I don't think I've spent much time around people 70 plus at all. I didn't have much grandparents. My dad's mum was she was quite funny, but she was a raging alcoholic, but she was also hilarious with it at the same time. But I never really experienced that. And like, I'll tell you one story. So I don't know why I'm going into this, but there was a car park space like feud in I grew up in like a scheme. Well, my dad lived in a scheme. I lived with my mum, and I was like 8 at the time, but they were constantly having this fight over this car parking space, or the next door neighbour was. So my dad moved back in with my gran because she was drinking loads, and we have a disabled auntie, so my dad's sister, and they were worried about her. So this guy was just an arsehole, and he just basically kept complaining that my dad was parking in front of his driveway, but he could still get out. So he would just complain about it all the time. My dad'd be like, you can fit a fucking truck through there. My dad's like as Glaswegian as he gets. And they always arguing about it. And my gran obviously didn't like the guy as well, so she got up one morning at 6 a.m. I'd probably tanned a bottle of whiskey. She went out and egged his car, like all over the front windscreen, and then just threw flour all over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then the police were out and all that. There was a whole like fiasco in the full street, and I'm like 7, like watching it all, and I was pissing myself laughing because my gran's just spanked a bottle of whiskey and egged my neighbour's car.
Yeah.
And the police were trying to stop it and all that. My dad was like behind the police guy, like winding the guy up, and he was just dead posh. And he was like, "Officer," and it's just people that are posh and try to complain about car parking spaces in a council estate. It's just, I can still remember it. It was hilarious. But I went out a day after and I kicked his car when I was like 8. Yeah, just because I was getting involved in it all. And I like that's my only experience with like old people. Yeah, because she was like maybe like in her 60s, and then all my other grandparents didn't. I'm not close to my mum's mum, and then my 2 grandpas like died. So I've never had like, you know, when people say that older folk you'll get so many life experiences from them, or they'll like maybe tell you regrets and stuff. I've never really had that experience. Like, what has there been stuff that you've maybe heard like older folks say, or that they must give you like life advice quite a lot, or like even just without it being advice, like telling you about their experiences that you've learned from? Sorry, that was a long-winded way of a question. Ended up with my gran fucking egging and flowering.
So John who passed away, he was really emotional. You always think older people seem to be a little bit, you know, they don't talk about their emotions a lot, I find, some of them anyway. And John did all the time. And
he's from Edinburgh.
He was actually brought up in Ireland and then spent a lot of his life in England. And he came to Edinburgh, I think, when he was in his late 30s. He just fell in love with Edinburgh. And so dating advice was something that John would give me. So he signed up to he loves looking at adverts, turns out. That's what I've realised about him. Signed up to it's like Lonely Hearts, basically. And he got matched up with a woman. Well, a few dates. 2 didn't go very well. He was about to give up. And then the 3rd one, he was like, this is it. This is honestly, she is the one. And that was like online dating back then. He was about late 30s, 40s. And yeah, they got married and they were together for.
Oh, that was his. I thought you were talking about after.
No,
that was his.
That
was his
missus. 90. This was this.
Oh, I was imagining him going out at 90 and it going terribly. I was like, what did he do?
No.
What did he say?
No, he just so we met. They got married. They never had any children, so he didn't have any family. When I met him, his wife had died 3 years before. So he was always saying, Kerry, when you meet the right person, you'll just know. When I met Moira, and it was so lovely because the way he spoke about it was amazing. It was so.
What was his other dating advice? Are you going in here with like your dating troubles? Kerry, I'm looking for a workout here, and you're telling me about your date.
It was him. He was always like, I can't wait for you to meet the one and to meet my adopted grandchildren. I was like, give me a minute. Like, Jesus Christ, John. But yeah, so it would just be stuff like that. We would talk about absolutely everything. But he was just full of wisdom, and he was always planning for the future. There was never a time I'd go in and he would be negative about anything, and it wasn't forced at all.
Do you think he's always been like that, or he's aged and then that's the way he's...
I think he was always like that. You could just tell he was just like an absolute sweetheart all his life. And yeah, it was just so lucky that I met someone like him, that we got on so well. And it was 5 years I was visiting him every week.
No way.
Yeah, he met my dad.
Would you say you were like his best friend then at that?
I would say so. I mean, there was his cleaner as well. She was pretty good friends with him. I don't want to say I was his best friend, but hopefully. So there was like a few of us. So at his funeral, there was his cleaner, his hairdresser, and his cousin. as well. And it was just so nice. My sister was there. It was so nice just seeing these people had come together and we had all just randomly met because of this one man. So yeah, it's so lovely.
So you do the wee whiteboard quotes?
Yes,
with,
whiteboard quotes.
With older people. What made you start that, and what's your favourite one?
So I got inspiration online. I don't know if you've seen like dating advice. Someone did dating advice and it's just loads of old people. And
oh, is it?
their
Oh,
dating
all right,
advice,
okay.
yeah. So I thought I'll do fitness advice. And I would say my favorite one is I think it's actually other John. He just put keep dancing. And I think it's because I know that he goes out dancing so much and how fit he is. He's 94 and he is always getting up, and like him and another woman, Margaret, they'll just start like jiving in the middle of the class.
Do they call it jiving?
Yeah, that's what it is. And it's probably, they just do it at the end of the class. I don't say to everyone, right, this is what we're going to do, but they just get up and do it, and it's amazing.
You just reminded me of my granddad take me line dancing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was like 7.
Nice. Yeah.
I Neil I actually would love Neil Diamond as well. But I was line dancing and Neil Diamond and whiskey. So I'm only obsessed with like the old folk stuff, really.
Yeah.
Because that's what I mostly wanted to get you on. Like I would say, seeing you post the pictures with the fit. I think I'd seen something before, and then you posted like one of the fitness advice. That was the main thing that I was attracted to. I was like, that's class. That's completely different. Have you? So I had this. I was trying to explain to my dad that he's like approaching 60. He's like 58, 59, but he's got a few injuries and stuff. And he was delivering Chinese during lockdown, and he fell over a curb.
Yeah.
I don't know what he done to his knee. I'll never get him to go to the hospital or whatever. But I was just trying to explain to him that even if he comes and lifts weights once a week with me, that he might have more of a chance of that stuff like that happening less in his older years, and he just wasn't having it at all. Have you managed to like convince any sort of even people that are like 50 and above to lift, and how have you approached that conversation? Because my dad wasn't functioning up there, and he exercises quite a lot, but it's like spin bike stuff and that as well.
Okay, yeah, I think it's hard when it's someone that you're close to. You're not an authority figure to them. I tried training my sister, and I try and get my dad to do more as well. He's relatively fit, so that's good. But I think it's if they see other people like them, and that's why I like posting, the older people on social media and getting them to talk about it and say the benefits as well, because it's not just about getting muscly. It's not just about trying to get hench. And that's what they think, that it's all about how it looks. But it's, if you actually, so what I do with a lot of the older people is I'll ask them what they struggle with day to day, and I'll create a workout or create a game or something that replicates that as well. So I think for your
what's an example of that then?
So one guy, Bob, he said that getting off the bus is really challenging. So just took him to the stairs in the sheltered housing and got him to step down in a really controlled way, step back up, and then step down. And it's just replicating it. It's
just a small step up.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. So
I've seen a lot. So I've seen there's like an Aussie guy have you ever seen that on TikTok? There's an Aussie guy that trains. I'll send you that. You'll find that funny because it's literally your niche. So he trains this like 97-year-old, but he's just like a wild Australian. He just says mad shit, and the videos always go viral. But that's what he's doing with him, like just like step ups. And I now get it. So it's just mimicking like much easier tasks that they have to do.
Exactly. So with your dad, find something that he enjoys doing and just like make it into an exercise and say, why don't you do this? And he's not even going to realize it's a deadlift. When you're lifting something off the floor, do you ever find that that's quite difficult? Why don't we just like make that happen now, and we'll make it easier? So no, I can't trick him.
Nah. He knows what I'm like.
Mm-hmm.
He knows my games.
Yeah. He's someone else. He's someone else that he'll.
Well, that's why Dale's training other PTs, mums and dads, I think, because they can't really train them themselves.
Yeah.
He trained his dad the other day. I haven't really asked him about it, but I would say his dad would be similar to mine, and just because he's like, I've done my gym days, because he went to the gym for 5 years or whatever, probably like my age or whatever, as being a henchman or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what you said is exactly what he was coming at it. He's like, I don't care about how I look. I'm like in my 50s, and I'm like, no, but you might not have hurt yourself on that curb. And he's like, the curb would have been there. I was like, yeah, but the curb was always just a curb. And you were 50, he was 55 at the time.
Yeah.
And it floored you for like 8 months. And I was like, we can do stuff about that. And he just wasn't having it. I would have came at that conversation a lot more. I'm being a bit blunt, but I would have tried, like, I know that if I'm pushy or whatever, he won't like it. But it's still so difficult.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard to, to speak to family or friends. I think it's just too difficult. You do try. I think at the start of your PT career, you're always like, right, I'm just going to train everyone that I know. And then you realize that it just doesn't work out and you end up arguing.
Do you not think you trained the worst clients possible at the start?
Yeah.
As in your friends and family, and you only attract the people that don't want to maybe pay, like you maybe charge less, and they also, people that have their heads screwed on know you're a newly qualified PT, so like, not touch him. Whereas then you get the people, oh, fuck it.
I know. Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, let's go.
But yeah, when you get further down, like, it's so much better when you actually value yourself as a PT as well, when you can trust. Because starting out as an online coach before you have experience, I didn't know what I was doing.
Do you remember your first programs were like?
Yeah.
I've went and looked at mine. They're ridiculous.
I don't. I don't know what I was. Again, I was just getting so hung up on being as qualified as possible and using the most complicated spreadsheets that I could. It was so complicated, everything. And now I don't use any of that. It's completely stripped back, and it's all dependent on the person. Someone walks into the gym and they say they're feeling like shit that day. The thing that you've planned, you have to deviate from it most of the time. And I think when people get hung up on like periodization and all that for, just the average person, it doesn't always work. You can't always stick to it.
Yeah, it's because things that will happen, like you'll have all this strength-based program sorted out, and then a client doesn't go to the gym for a week because they've had whatever, like a breakup or whatever. And that's part of the coaching journey.
Yeah.
Them going through a breakup, not being able to go to the gym, isn't like, oh, they're a victim, or like, or they don't want it enough. That's something I fucking despise hearing.
Yeah.
Our PTs coming on and going, oh, I run my business and do all of this, and I still manage to get up at 6 in the morning. It's like, fuck up.
I know.
Like, honestly, fuck up. Nobody cares. That's more just a flex that you still get to go to the gym, rather than like something that helps a client. So has it taught you much about your clients in the gym? So like, is there any like lessons you've learned from adapting exercises that you've took to like clients in the gym?
What do you mean, like
as in, so you're adapting things on the go?
Yeah.
Like looking at, like I seen you were getting them to do shoulder presses, and it was like a 2 kilo dumbbell or whatever. I presume sometimes people can't do that.
Okay, so like the older clients.
Yeah, but is there anything that you've learned on the spot that you've maybe done made a mistake or something, or done something too much that you've took across to other clients?
I mean, sometimes you'll try something with someone, and it's just hard if someone doesn't quite get what they're supposed to be doing, and you're showing them. And when I'm trying to show someone and you realize you need to regress it in some way, it's quite difficult because you don't want them to feel like, okay, we need to make it easier. So
because there's other people there.
No, it's just if they're, I don't know. I think it's just sometimes when they feel like it's a regression. So you have to be really tactical with how you do things and say, okay, we're not going backwards. We're just adapting it. you know? So I think I've definitely learned with working with older people is the word functional is a bit weird because I think it gets overused, but
I don't even know what it means
making
anymore.
well, that's it, exactly. I don't really understand what it means, but making it so that I think for me, it's just mimicking everyday life. So taking that, and I didn't think about that so much before I started working with older people. I didn't think about how a deadlift would transfer into everyday life or a shoulder press. I just saw it as the exercise. But now when I'm working, doing these classes and I'm getting them to, push a 2 kilo dumbbell above their head, and I'm thinking about them reaching into a cupboard, or I get them to I'll take like a jar and get them to unscrew the jar and then pass it like under their legs and around their head, because that's going to mimic them putting on their clothes in the morning. So that's really valuable, and that can be used for absolutely anyone.
Where did you learn it from?
So
did you do much research like before, or like is there much stuff you can do?
Yeah, there's loads of courses.
Is there?
But
You've done them all, have you?
I've done them all, every single one. I kind of just, so when I started, I didn't do much research. I just planned a class and just wanted to see how it went. And it didn't go, I hardly looked at the plan because people came in, like I said, they all had completely different needs. So I had to adapt.
You're going, how do you speak to a deaf person?
It was really, really challenging. But yeah, it's all experience. And that's hard because it's going to be scary and it's going to feel icky for the first little while.
So when I started, I was posting on TikTok, and because of the freestyle stuff, I had already grown a following before.
Oh, right.
So I had like 20,000 followers, and then I deleted them all when I started PTing, because like if I posted something, nobody would see it because they all followed me for, why is this guy who does football tricks now fucking talking about fat loss or like whatever. So I had deleted them all, but so I knew, and I almost know too much about like how to get attention in the first 5 seconds, and like how to keep people's attention and topics to talk about, what ones will get views, and it just took all the nuance and the advice you actually need to get out of the videos. So I just hated making them.
Yeah.
So then it would annoy me because I would make a really, like, you can make a really good video and be like, this is actual specific advice I gave a client that would really help people. But it doesn't fall into the bracket of good first 5 seconds, keeps attention.
Yeah.
So I hate it. That's why I like doing podcasts, because you can speak about, we've chatted loads of shit as well that is absolutely not helpful at all. But like, and there's information that, maybe 5 things, especially because a lot of PTs listen to this.
Yeah.
So like a lot of PTs will be like, oh, I need to become an online coach and stuff like that. And I get so many messages from people like, oh, thank you you made me see the light that it's about just like enjoying the job as well.
Yeah.
I think most people forget about enjoying PT. Like, why did we start?
Exactly.
Like, to help. Yeah.
I think social media, when you go on there and you look at what everyone else is doing, and there is a lot of the same thing going on, especially with videos. They look so similar now. And
all PT's videos are the same right now.
Yeah.
It's all the exact same.
Exactly.
And that's because there are courses that tell you how to make the exact same video. And business mentors telling you how to do the exact same tactics to get sales. So people aren't speaking about them and their clients. They're just mimicking the same shit that they've seen someone else say to get views. Yeah.
It doesn't feel human to me. You're not seeing the clients, you're not seeing the experience, and that's what it's all about. And a lot of people say to me, well, what's the point of you being on social media so much, if not that I'm on it that much, because I'm so inconsistent, but if the older people aren't going to see it, I'm like, but everyone else is on it.
Yeah, so. But everyone has, like, I'm watching that going, right, on like my main motive, like most of the time I've got an agenda with people coming on the podcast is like, how can I learn from you how to like maybe get my dad?
Yeah.
And I've instantly went, I might see if you would train with Dale. And I genuinely wouldn't have thought of that before.
Yeah.
So that, like, you just saying stuff about older folk will be like, oh, my gran hasn't really moved. Maybe I can get her to go to one of these classes, you know?
Well, that's it. And that's what I love is when I speak to people, they always say there's someone they know, whether it be their grandparents or parents or just an older person that they know. They say, oh, they would really benefit from that. And it makes me so sad because I sometimes feel like that sort of thing's an afterthought. You know, when people get older, they'll see doctors, they'll see physios, but it's always after the fact. It's always after something bad has happened.
No preventative stuff.
No preventative. So this is about maintaining independence. This is about, well, not always just before the care home, but during, when they're there, you know, making sure they stay as mobile as possible. But when they're in sheltered housing, retirement homes, or in their own home, making sure that they're mobile, making sure they're still able to get in and out of a chair and reach up to the cupboard. Because when they're not doing that, when they've got carers coming in to do things for them as well, that takes away a little bit of their independence. And they won't necessarily be thinking about it. They won't think, if I'm not doing it, I'm going to lose the ability to do it. So you have to be there to let them know that and to guide them and to push them.
You said something interesting on your Instagram. It was something like, if someone who can do something stops doing it, they lose their, you said it better than that.
Yeah.
They lose their ability to do it.
Yeah, and it is. That was one of the quotes, actually. If you don't use it, you lose it. And it's so true. Move it or lose it, I think it was. But you don't, if someone's constantly doing that thing for you, your body is just going to go, well, I don't need to do that anymore. So why would I, you know, and that's when your muscles start to waste and your body starts to adapt to not do hard things.
It's like skills, in it. If you stop doing it, you lose the skill.
It's like my football skills. I stopped doing it and I can't do like 10 keepy uppies again. I'm like...
Did you actually try learn keepy uppies?
Yeah, every summer.
And how did you go on?
I get good.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then I get shit again.
I spent an hour and a half of every day of from 13 to 23.
Really?
Doing that in my back garden, yeah. I used to be obsessed with try to beat my keepy uppy record since I was 6, and then I found a whole sport on YouTube and got involved in it. But that's what I was saying. So all these lights went off, and that's why we went off on a random topic. And we had to start again because people were like, why the fuck have they moved on from, what was it, freestyle to, what did we end up speaking about? PTs again. And the social media stuff. So that, so funny when you said about having to adapt things to older people and just being I had this session and then so I used to go around primary schools, and it was specifically in England because they had funding for random things like this. In Scotland, they'd no funding for niche sort of sports, right? So we would go down. First of all, people couldn't understand what I was saying, which I never thought about.
Oh yeah.
Because I would have to do an assembly in front of 300 kids, which anyone knows me in school, I would stay off when we had solo talks. I just wouldn't do it. They'd be like, oh, you're solo talks on Tuesday. And I'm like, I will not be here. I just won't do it. So I used to refuse. And so I had to do solo talks and then take each primary one by one. So P1 to P7 or first to 6th year, whatever they call it down there, or year 6. And I never even considered that lots of autistic children are in the classes. Yeah. The teachers do not give a single fuck.
Really?
They see it as a free period.
Yeah.
So they would just sit at the side. You might have 2 really just misbehaved kids that are maybe whatever, a bit rough, and then you might have one autistic child, and I was only 21 or 22. You just go in, I would try teach a kid a trick, and then I started grasping it really quick because it only takes you get a ball booted off your face once for you to quickly go, oh, something different.
Yeah.
And but that I had to adapt loads of things because of that.
That's it.
Loads. I had to make it even easier for them, and I also had to gain a sixth sense of when someone maybe was on the spectrum or maybe ADHD or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's mad how quick you learn into it.
Yeah, you have to. And maybe some people aren't as attuned to that, but having the person in front of you and adapting things for that individual, I think that's what sets coaches apart, definitely, is taking that individual and knowing when they're uncomfortable in the gym and knowing when to change things up because that thing that you planned isn't working for them that day for, not even just because of their movement, maybe just mentally they're not in the right place to be pushed to do a 5-rep max or something like that. So I just make sure that my clients know that there's nothing set in stone. We can change things if we need to. It doesn't mean that they're not going to make progress. And then just getting to know each individual and actually caring about them, and not just what's going on in the gym. It's not just an hour in the gym. It's everything around that as well. I want to make sure that I know if they're having a shit day, like tell me about it. I want to know about it. I want to be able to help. Well, as much as I can.
Oh, they do tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really need to ask sometimes.
Yeah. No, they definitely do. And everyone's just so different. They're so different. Everyone's got different needs. And it's just being like switched on to that, but not so much to the point that you take on everyone else's problems.
I've had clients that I've had for like 5 months, and they've just, after like 5 months, they've told me something I never knew about them. And I went, that changes everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, I've been doing this, and this, and I just wouldn't have done that if I... I can think of like 5 examples in my head that I wouldn't say. Yeah, especially this year. Yeah, loads of different stuff. I've had my own therapist on the podcast last week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I had a therapist on before that, and I honestly learn more from therapists than I do from PTs, but about more how to approach like just dealing with clients.
Yeah,
I think they have got much better approaches.
Yeah, because it's such a big part of it. You don't really realize that when you become a PT. And I think that's why a lot of people don't last in the PT industry because it is a massive part. And if you're not, I guess, emotionally intelligent or have that side of things, then you're not going to be able to maintain clients. I don't think. I think that's what leads to retention a lot of the time is if they actually enjoy coming to the gym and doing their sessions.
I genuinely think it's that like people will say that you need to look like you're a PT and it's all about looks and stuff. But I almost think those people are disadvantaged because if they get clients easily from that, they'll always think it's about that. But to retain and actually like keep on clients, like that's what was popping up in my, like, I don't know if what I described as my experience when I came in with so I hired a coach straight away. He's pretty famous in Scotland.
Okay.
He's not famous, but like everybody knows who he is.
Okay.
And the service was horrendous, like honestly awful, and it was just fat loss, calories, a spreadsheet, a workout that clearly like nothing that I wrote on the consultation form was even remotely considered or whatever. Yeah. And like loads of people are following what that guy sort of says, and I just thought everyone was just sort of like doing this 1 week check-in, like once a week check-in, and everyone was just trying to lose weight. I was like, is that what everyone sort of does? So like that's what I done for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I was always like, how do I market then if like that's all anyone wants? So in the last year, from just doing 3 sessions with people, not even really pushed, like I could probably sell more if I wanted to, if I brought them in here after whatever and like pushed them into like coming on coaching, but I'd tell them if they want coaching, I'll talk to them on WhatsApp after or whatever. From doing that, being really honest on podcasts and like Instagram, like just saying, like instead of like not talking about your clients that haven't done that well and only pushing the 1 out of 10 that get amazing results, because realistically that's, so many people don't get amazing results, but you change a lot of their life and their life's way better, but they don't like physically look like they're about to fucking walk down the beach or anything.
Yeah.
But I've found I've got more clients.
Absolutely.
And I've struggled less to get clients, and they've stayed with me longer.
Yeah.
And I haven't marketed towards any of those things once.
Yeah. No, like before and after. Do you do before and afters?
I've maybe posted 10 in my life.
Yeah.
None in the last year. I was never really big on that. Plus, I didn't get a lot of clients that had ridiculous transformations. Yeah. Because the people that get really good transformations are only people, like physically, like looks-wise, usually only tend to be people that have got no more than 2 stone overweight, because it shows quicker.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a touchy subject because people might get find a wee bit of offence in that. But what I mean is, if I take someone who's like quite on the heavier side, they only lose like a stone and a half, but they could never they were scared of the gym and they'd no structure to their life whatsoever. They lose like a stone and a half. Their progress picture might not look crazy different, but when I speak to that person, I know that I've had a way bigger impact on them than the person who 8 weeks before their holiday or whatever. Not that I never really took those clients on, but
yeah, and I think I did see some of your posts like that. That's exactly what I want to do, is just not make it about the physical. It's a small part of it, but doing those posts where people can relate to them and it's about how they're feeling and the life-changing, the day-to-day things that you've changed in their life. And that's when people resonate. I think with the older people as well. I've gotten clients, younger clients that have just said, I can see that,
you care.
You care, exactly. And it's less intimidating. I think when people start with a PT, they sometimes think, okay, we need to go really easy. Like, I am so unfit. And they always underestimate how fit they are and think that they're going to have to do like seated exercise as well. And they like that I've got that part of it. But that actually amazed me that I would ask them, so like, why is it that you actually chose me if they saw me on Instagram or wherever, and they say, I like that you worked with older people and it shows that you're just, that you care and you're working with anyone. So I didn't expect that at all. Because it's that whole business mentality. People go, you've got a niche, you've got to go straight. Like, if you're aiming for this audience, it's got to be all about that. But it doesn't end up working out like that, I find.
Oh, it works like hardly any of the business advice I got when I started applied. It applied if you wanted to like make a lot of money really fast.
Yeah.
But like you would have just burnt out. Like in my first 2 years of coaching, like I could have had like I didn't really, but I could have had like months where I made a lot online coaching. But I would have just died on Mars, and I wouldn't have learned anything. I wouldn't still be doing it. I almost think like just last the first 3 years, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, just survive. Just try and find your way.
Yeah, just fucking grind it out. Because it can be pretty miserable at times when you've like, oh man, but like you'll be like to people, made $2,500 this month or whatever, and I'm like, that's quite good. And I was like, no, when you want a business and you have to pay gym rent and all that, I'm actually like minus £700.
Yeah. Oh, it is brutal, and I think that's why if you're not really into it and if you're not doing it for the right reasons, that's why the dropout rate is so high. It's really tough because it's so up and down all the time. Some days you wake up and you're like, whoa, I remember being like, I feel like I'm on holiday all the time. I'm just meeting up with like clients that are friends. And then the next week, it's just, you're just so stressed, worrying about money. And it's such a roller coaster. It's still like that now, but
yeah, especially with your gym closing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the gym closing down, that was a real shock because that's where I started my business. So I went online first of all, and then I worked in the gym. So that's the first gym that I worked in, and I just was so attached to it. I was like, this is the best place ever. It was at the end of the road, like where I live, so I could just walk to work every morning. And yeah, they just closed down, but they did give me the opportunity to then get into working with older people. So
how do you market your business then? You literally just do it with those posts and stuff. I'm just thinking because that's what I've been. So I'm don't make any money from PTs like getting tips off of this podcast, or like I'm not a businessman or anything. I just like speaking about it because I want to give, because not that you can change. I don't think you can change the industry. I think it's always going to be pretty fucked up. I think it's mostly going to attract people that I want to make a lot of money quickly. But like, I'm just trying to think about other ways that PTs won't drop out.
I know. I think it's what we were saying earlier about just think outside the box. Just don't be.
I'll just leave them. Fuck it. We're gonna end soon anyway. So the lights have switched off again, but fuck them.
Yeah. Don't get hung up on what you learn when you're doing your PT training. Don't just think, okay, it has to be, I can't remember what they call it, but you've got fat loss and you've got this and you've got that. It's like, just remove all that and look at the people that you're working with and think, like, how can you actually change their life? And sit down and think, what is it that really like gets you going? You know, like when I think about helping older people, I just get so excited, and you can't deny that. And I think sometimes you can convince yourself that, because being a fat loss coach, for instance, it seems like it's quite easy to see other people that are doing it, and you can replicate it and think, okay, this is going to be quite straightforward. And I convinced myself at certain points that, you know, that's what I want to do, because it seemed more straightforward, but I hadn't actually stopped to think, what is it that you're going to be passionate about? And that, you know, people that are underserved as well, thinking that way. But you can see straight away when someone stands out, it's just so refreshing.
Yeah.
It's so nice when you see PTs that are doing something completely different, and obviously for the right reasons as well. So I'm always looking out for people like that and reaching out to them and asking how they got into it.
I remember Dale, Dale worked in a gym in Wishaw, and I remember him saying people just came up to me because I would be trying to teach myself random exercises to coach a client, and he would see me doing that in the gym. So I just say, like, because I would do this as well. Like, I'd never ever done step ups and for myself. So I was like, I can't train a client how to do this. I don't know how to do it. So I would go and learn how to do step ups, and I would do stuff like that as well. And people would see you, be like, "What are you doing?" Because you're clearly not doing a working set. I was just thinking in my head, right, how do I do this? How do I do that? And it's like we daft, stupid things like that. People are like, oh, he actually, like, he's trying to do something a bit different. Like, he's not.
Yeah.
He's actually trying to be better.
Trying to be better. That's it. Just constantly just trying to be the best coach that you can for the clients that are in front of you. And that's what I'm just always trying to do. And just asking them exactly what it is that they need. I think is the most important thing that you can do, you know.
Class, we'll wrap it up there. That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try a different method with my dad then.
Yeah, good.
Maybe I'll send him. Maybe I'll put him in the seniors classes. What's the cut-off range when he gets to 60? Can he get involved?
I know. I think the youngest I've got is 78.
Oh, really?
I think that's the youngest in the class. The oldest will be 98 this year.
I do what I do to, like, because I was thinking about more. You think when you come in, don't you, that you're like, I can help everyone.
Yeah.
And then you realise, no, you can't. But this year I've more kind of went, do you know what, I maybe would really like to just, I'm not from Airdrie, but because we've got this place or whatever, just locally helping people. Yeah. Even if it's like free fucking set, like 2-hour workshops on an exercise or whatever. Yeah. And like anyone can come, and it's just like 5 people or whatever. That's just wee things like that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about.
I did, when I was volunteering for the elderly charity, I also did one with people affected by alcoholism. It was just another charity, and I'd visit a woman every week and just chat. It was just the same sort of thing. But
you like just chatting to people. I know. Can I just come to your house once a week and talk to you?
And she was saying, oh, really? Because I would just go to the gym and I'd talk about it. And she's like, I'd love to do something like that. That sort of thing. Yeah. That's, you know, I don't see enough of that. There is someone actually on Instagram that's doing, I can't remember what his name is, but he helps vulnerable people.
Right.
That's my dream, is to have a gym where it's just.
Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking in a few years' time when, like, I'm doing a lot better now. I was very skint this time last year.
Yeah.
But as in just like get another year or 2 of not being skint, and then be able, like, give yourself 5 hours a week where you can do something like that. Because I would love to do that. That's why I like doing the free sessions and stuff.
I know.
But I would like to try around a niche like that, or maybe something to do, because I had a doctor on before that he works in a bariatric surgery.
All right, yeah.
He was talking about, like, they deal with like gastric sleeves and stuff, and he was talking about how PTing is very much a middle class thing, like people who get PT, because 30-40 quid a session, like on the cheapest. So that got me thinking as well. It's not available to a lot of people, and a lot of people just are like, I can't go to the gym, can't afford it, and yada yada yada. And they're not lying. Like, they genuinely can't, like, afford the PT.
I know. Well, that's older people as well. That was something that they said. You know, a few people said older people don't like spending money on themselves. Investing in themselves is not something that they do easily, like we kind of do. So I remember my heart sank when someone said that. It was actually someone that like was running a retirement housing. You know, she was saying it in a really nice way. She's like, just be aware. So getting funding is really important. So the classes that I'll be doing out with the company that I'm working for will be funded because I don't want it to fall on the residents themselves, because, you know, it would be so hard to do it that way, and it's all numbers dependent as well. So I think there just needs to be more financial help, so it doesn't have to be, because you need to run a business. If it's going to be pay what you can, which I would love to do, you're just going to end up at a loss. So
yeah, by the time you hire somewhere to do it.
Yeah, it's just not. So yeah, just get funding and pushing for that.
I've never tried to get funding,
It's
but I
not.
don't imagine that's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, it's not the easiest, but there is money out there. I think like it's, if you go and contact the right people and just see what's going on. I think a lot of the time, like before, I just didn't bother with any of that, and I thought it's just going to be so complicated. But yeah, it's definitely worth thinking about anyway.
Right. We
yeah,
will.
thank you.
No worries.